Good evening, world, and happy Monday. This is Derek Dunn with Reviews&Dunn. I have the pristine privilege of speaking with recording artist Bradd Marquis. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing all right, man. But it's Marquis.
And you know what? When I read that, I meant to say that, so I apologize. It's an error on my part. It's been a long working day, working from home, so I'm just a little bit.
Hey, man, you ain't got to explain nothing. It is all good, man.
A little bit out of it. So let's go ahead and correct that. I have the pristine privilege of speaking with Bradd Marquis. Yeah. So how you doing, sir? Holding up with all this coronavirus madness going on.
Now, here we go. Can we do that one more time? Because it's key with no S.
Bradd Marquis. Bradd Marquis.
Yeah. It's to blame my mom. Okay. Blame her. She did it.
All right, my apologies. So how you doing today, sir, with all this corona madness going on?
Probably the same as everybody. Well, not the same as everybody else, but, concerned, and just, trying to figure out what the day-to-day is going to look like, and hopefully and wondering when this thing's going to be over and we can get back to some semblance of normalcy.
Yes, sir. So all we can do is take it day by day. I mean, I do think the one good thing about this whole thing is, though, it's giving people a chance to, for lack of a better word, reconnect and really find out what's important and kind of disconnect from, social media and being on your cell phones and, not really being around your family as you should, and, getting closer to staying spiritually and, getting back in shape. Just, the things that we take for granted, we're starting to get back on track more with that. Or at least that's what I've seen a lot of, is people, staying home, cooking, and families going on walks together, and couples actually talking and not just, constantly being,
on the
plugged
go.
into Facebook and social media and all that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. I think it's been a reset, a reset of hopefully values, a reset of, like you said, what's important to individuals, and be able to have those hard conversations that we may have been avoiding because we were, ripping and running and try to achieve this and achieve that and blah, blah, blah. And now we've been forced to sit down and like you said, reconnect with family, reconnect, with ourselves, get some things, get some things done that we may have been neglecting, and pushing to the side and really, like you articulate, is reevaluate, completely, and then hopefully we come out of this as a better society in general, towards each other and for, our individual selves.
And no doubt. All right, so basically how I do my interviews is I just do traditional Q&A style, but it's more of a conversation. So let's go ahead and get to it, and get a chance to learn a little bit more about you. All right, so the first question is, I understand that you got your start singing in the gospel troupe Family and Friends as a child performer. Did you all travel all around the country performing?
I don't want to say all around the country, but definitely up and down that East Coast. Definitely everywhere from New York to, as far as Virginia that I can remember. I was such a young kid at the time. They started bringing me on the road, when they discovered I could sing and had me do a little solo here and there. And, but most of my experience was just seeing and watching how it was done, and just enjoying the family time. Obviously that was before, cell phones and pagers and all that. It was before all of that stuff. So you really just had family time. So that was, for me, those are the fondest memories, is being on the bus and just being around my aunts and uncles and cousins and family. That's what I remember every time I think back on it.
Cool. From a secular standpoint, what artist would you say inspired your singing style?
Honestly, I fell in love with Jodeci. I fell in love with KC from Jodeci off that Father MC, Treat 'Em Like. And it kind of snowballed from there. I moved forward and get into the Ushers and the R. Kellys and things of that nature. And from that, I kind of got pushed back in time, back to the 70s. And, you know, well, I won't say back in the 70s. Let me say Luther. And Luther Vandross was one of them, Glenn Jones, Freddie Jackson. You know, those were artists that I related to. And then from that, I went back to the 70s with the Marvin Gayes and the Donny Hathaways, you know, and the David Ruffins and the Johnny Taylors. Like, they inspired me so much. And then from there, I went even further back, you know, because I was raised by my grandparents for the most part, and they always played these musicians, but I didn't know who they were, you know, until I got older and I started doing my own research. So then I tripped up into, you know, James Brown, Ray Charles, Sam Cooke, you know, so just kind of a gumbo of artists, you know. But initially it was KC from Jodeci that actually kind of excited me about singing.
Yeah, it's I'm somewhat the same way. I always tell people that I'm an old soul. So growing up, you know, my mom would always have on, like, you know, the older music. So I was more privy to that. And then, you know, the current stuff, you know, I'm an R&B fanatic regardless. But just as, you know, being like, you know, age 12 and 13, you know, in the car, I would get more enjoyment out of hearing the Delphonics and the Temps and the Shy Lights and Curtis Mayfield than I would say out of the current, you know, stuff. And
absolutely.
As a former DJ, one of the things I would always do is I would always look through the album credits, and I would find what someone sampled, and then I would work that into my sets.
Mhm. Yep. That helped me as well. I was going to say that Five Heartbeats movie. That was Five Heartbeats movie made me want to be a performer. You know, it's one of my all-time favorite movies, and that, you know, that exposed me to Delphonics and all of that. But, you know, seeing those scenes play out, you know, how they did in that movie made me want to be, you know, Eddie King. Minus the drug addiction.
All right, 2007 saw the release of your debut album, Finding My Way, led by the single Radio. That album was inspired by your broken engagement, correct?
Yeah. I was actually engaged to be married as I was writing that. You know, I was working as a social worker when I would leave on the weekends, I would travel up to New York and write this project with my producer in New York. And, you know, we spent about 2 years working on that, but I don't know how many songs. We did over 50 some odd songs. We had one iteration of the album, and then we shopped it around, and folks wanted to stick me in, you know, adult contemporary box. And, you know, I was an extremely young man, so I was like, why do I have to go to an adult contemporary? You know, I was looking at Usher and Monica and Brandy as my, you know, my peers, and I'm like, yeah, I want to be with them. I don't want to be, you know, be in the Luther Vandross box, you know. So we went back to the drawing board and recorded some more songs, and Radio was actually one of those songs that we recorded, and Radio ended up getting picked up by K Slay and DJ K Slay, and he broke it on his drama hour on Hot 97. And from there, it just blew up and went all around the world. Like, the song went faster than I did. Like, people were playing the song but didn't even know who I was. You know, it was on Music Choice, and it was on, you know, every mixtape. You know, once Slay put it on his mixtape, everybody who had a mixtape put it on theirs. You know, and I was the only unsigned artist on majority of these mixtapes. So I was traveling and funny thing, I didn't even know I was traveling that far, you know, my name and the song.
Cool. 2011, you released your second album, Authentic. What was the creative process behind that album?
Really just needing to, you know, I didn't want to be gone so long because the last project was 2007. And again, I had wrote a lot of the songs from Authentic in the end of 2007, 2008. Like, I did about I did about 4 albums, I should say, between 2006 and 2011. You know, I wrote about four albums worth of music, if not more. And these songs from Authentic, were cohesive, and they were kind of written in the same time frame. And it was, kind of me coming up out of the relationship and doing a lot of retrospect about, who I was in that relationship and what I had done and what I wanted to do moving forward, who I wanted to be moving forward. So that's why I called it authentic, because it was raw. That album was raw. If one of these days I'm going to actually do that album live, just a live recording of that whole album, because, I think it would translate so well live. And it's just so, like I said, raw and authentic and true to heart, emotional from the first song to the last.
I can respect that. I'm gonna go off track for a quick second. That's one of my biggest things about being a music fan is hearing an artist do an album from start to finish live, because a lot of songs that you listen to, no matter who the artist is, in my opinion, they come across better live. So when you can hear an artist do an entire album, from start to finish, especially if it's a classic album, to me, as a music fan, that's like one of the greatest things you can, hear and accomplish live. And I think it also resonates with one of my personal sentiments is there's certain artists that to really see what they can do and really experience their talent, you got to see them live. I think a prime example is someone like a John Legend. I'm like, it's not a shot at John, but to truly appreciate what that man can do, you got to see John live, because he's a musician. He's just not like a singer. He's actually, a musician. He's going to get up there, play the piano. The same with the Roots. The Roots can kill it, but to really see what them boys can do, you got to see the Roots live. It's a totally different experience than just, hearing it on the album. So it's a little bit sidetracked.
Absolutely. I've seen the Roots live multiple times. I don't believe I've ever seen John. No, I'll take that back. I have seen John Legend live. I have seen him live. I think he was at the Bowery Room. So I have seen him live. But absolutely, I completely agree. I think I'm one of those artists. If you see me live, you get you truly understand, what it is I'm trying to project, within my music and with, within myself, just in general, as an artist. So I think authentic would truly capture, that feel, and give me an opportunity to express myself in a way that I don't think I did when I put that album out. That album was a learning experience on all kinds, from top to bottom, because I put the project out, but I didn't necessarily have backing for it, and I didn't have a real plan versus the release of the first single, So I had to do a lot of retro promotion and marketing on that project, and I didn't get the legs that I would have hoped at the time, because I didn't have the finances for it, and again, I didn't have the plan for it, things of that nature. And it really put the music business, the business of music, in perspective, and how to promote a record and how to get an album out and have it gain traction, things of that nature, and that taught me a whole lot and prepped me for my third project.
Cool. So speaking of live music, we're going to segue right into the next question. About 6 years ago, I bought my mom tickets to see your Sam Cooke live show, and you did a stop in D.C. at the Howard Theater. She had a great time. Yes, sir. So she had a great time at the show, and that brings me to my next question. What was the inspiration behind your one-man Sam Cooke show, and do you have any plans to ever release the studio recording of a Sam Cooke cover song?
Well, to answer the inspiration behind it, for your first question is I was doing musical theater in 2008, and when I came off, I had done a few shows, and one of the shows was in Buffalo, New York. I had done, it was like a 6-month residency, a 3 or 4 month run, about 2 shows a week. I think it was 2 shows a week. But I wanted to keep, I wanted to keep my chops up, as far as acting, as far as performing, And there were a few people over time that told me I reminded them of Sam Cooke. One, when I was working with at one point I was working with Murder Inc., the Inc., and one of their engineers always tried to get me to re-record Sam Cooke material, but, I didn't work with him long enough to actually settle down and do that. But it always stuck with me, and he always stayed on me about it, via social media and, just checking in on me, making sure seeing how I was doing and how my career was going. And he always kept mentioning Sam Cooke. And when I finished the show, I was hanging out with one of my friends, Sun Singleton, and she reminded me, she's like, "Oh, man, you look like Sam Cooke. Your story sounds like Sam Cooke." And I was like, you know what? I don't know a lot about him. So she gave me Dream Boogie. She gave me an autobiography about him. And so I read it front to back, and then I just did every ounce of research I could on him and decided to put a show together. And she helped me, and a lot of other people helped me put that show together. And, it was an extreme accomplishment, but from there it just kind of snowballed. I'm still doing it to this day, and, it's one of my biggest, crowd getters, and I'm able to get an agent for it and travel all over the United States performing it, and it does very well. But the show's evolved. When I initially did it, it was kind of relating myself to Sam Cooke, and when I did Sam Cooke's portion of the show, I would perform as Sam Cooke. I mean, I had his mannerisms, his speech, cadences, his vocals. I had everything down pat. I mean, I immersed myself in Sam for a good 3, 4, 5 months so I could actually be him on stage, and, then I would switch. So I was flipping back and forth between Bradd, telling the stories, Bradd, but performing as Sam Cooke. And then I decided just to scrap, my aspect of it, the Bradd Marquis aspect of it, and just make it all about Sam and just tell his story, because his story was so amazing, and not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people, because his material is owned by, his old business partners, and they're independent of any, publishing company, and they have all the rights to pretty much 90+% of his likeness and his music. It makes it very hard, to get anything out there without their approval. So it's hard to answer your second question. It's very hard to re-record his specific material. But there are songs that he covered that I'm going to cover, like "Blowing in the Wind" by Bob Dylan is a song that I plan very soon to cover and to push that out there. So there is material out there that I would want to redo and reinterpret and get out there. And, I truly enjoy doing the show, especially in times like these, especially over the last 4 years, I've truly enjoyed doing the show. And because his journey through civil rights, it speaks to a lot of the time the conditions of what we're living in now. Not a lot has changed, but not a lot has changed. And the messaging that he had and his transition from a gospel artist to a secular artist to an activist, to an entrepreneur to an activist, speaks to me. It speaks to others, and where he ended as far as an activist, and the time frame in which he made his transition, what he chose to do with his notoriety is inspiring, and the messaging is inspiring. And it's universal. It's funny where, I'll do crowds of, however many, 5,000 people, whatever. And you look in the audience and, I'm a young black man. I see a lot of older white people who just love Sam and who come and just, they want to ingest him and that message. And, it's an opportunity to, for those who may not be aware or make themselves aware or may have different opinions or perspectives of what's going on right now, is an opportunity to, just hopefully bridge some gaps and touch some hearts.
Yeah, Sam is Sam. That's still, not to go into the whole, controversy, but I mean that's such a huge loss to the music industry, and even watching the Netflix special about Sam, it was so brief, and just stuff they got into about what he was trying to do. Like you can only imagine, like, just if Sam had achieved what he wanted to achieve, and had his dreams like get deferred. Like, just imagine Sam and Motown like going neck and neck in the '60s with their competing, music. It would have been a great thing to experience.
Absolutely. I mean, he was a pioneer. He inspired the Aretha Franklins and the Johnny Taylors and the Bobby Womack's and Lou Rawls, and he was in the same box as Ray Charles and Little Richard, and but he was doing things that they weren't doing, owning his own masters, owning his own record label, having his own publishing company. He was doing things that the biggest artists at the time, be it Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, or whomever was in that time frame, they weren't even able to do those things. And he was a pioneer and inspired more than just the black community. But I think it was a heavy loss because he was the leader or a leader, in the civil rights movement and self-empowerment and entrepreneurship and ownership, And so I think that's something that we lost out on, to see where he could have taken it, because he died at 33, to see where he could have taken it, and he would have, I'm sure, inspired more along the way and helped more along the way, and gladly, thankfully, others like Berry Gordy picked up where he left off, and put their interpretation on what his messaging was, but they contributed to the culture and the community, and he was one of the main ones, if not the main one. Him and Ray Charles were neck and neck as far as inspiring the transition from gospel to soul music, what we know now as soul music.
Yes, sir. All right, let's go back to your first album. In my opinion, it's a great debut, and it still resonates 13 years later. If you had an unlimited budget, what video concept would you like to? What video concept would you have used for the songs "Accommodate" and "Roller Coaster"?
Accommodate. Actually, I think "Accommodate" might be my favorite song in that whole album. What would the video Oh man, that's a good question. I've never thought about that. What video concept would I use for "Accommodate"? I don't know, man. It might just have to be some real romantic stuff, man. Really one of those videos where you do everything you can to show a woman her worth in that video, from the little things to the big things. It may not actually, we may focus on the little things, or, the conversations and the date nights and, the taking the trash out, whatever, just the little things that women, appreciate that we don't know that they appreciate. They may be looking for a conversation and we buy them a car. They like the car, but they really want the connection from the conversation. So just really, get into the minutia of a relationship that's, not so grandiose as people like to paint that picture. And you said Roller Coaster? Man.
Yes.
Roller Coaster. It's funny. Roller Coaster was a freestyle. Roller Coaster, Why'd You Have to Go, and Rendezvous. I freestyled those 3 songs. I did those 3 songs probably in a matter of 30 minutes. I was feeling some kind of way, and that's what I would do for Roller Coaster. I would just record how it was recorded. I would video how it was recorded, because I was going through some stuff with me and my fiance at the time had gotten a big argument, a big beef, this, that, and the other. And I left the house, and it was my day to go to New York, so I ended up still going to New York and left the conversation where it was. It wasn't finished. We were still mad. We were still upset. And I came to the studio, and my producer had these 3 tracks done. And he said, "Brad, I want you to hear it." I said, "You know what? I don't want to hear them right now." I was like, "Turn off the lights. Give me the headphones. Give me some mood lighting, candles, whatever." And I just said, turn on the mic. Play the songs, and what you hear on those 3 songs is what I sang. The lead vocals is what I sang when he turned on that microphone, and we just went track to track to track. And the first one was Roller Coaster, and I was so hurt hurt, like, why'd you have to go? Like, in the "Why'd You Have to Go," you can hear me crying at the end of that song, because I was literally crying at the end of that song. But Roller Coaster, I began with that because I was just frustrated, and that's just just let it come out. So I probably would film how it was created as the music video, like the whole process from the argument going up there and just, letting it all out, and then that'd be the end of it. Cool. Maybe some flashbacks to the argument, the fighting, and this, that, and the other, and the love, and as I'm singing the song. But that's probably how it would go.
Cool. All right, another question that might throw you off. All right, let's see what the response is. The year is 2013, and you receive a phone call. The New Edition is reuniting, that they love your Thank You project. The group wants your opinion on a song to cover from that project. What song would you pick for the group to cover?
Wow. From the Thank You album, the first song that came to mind, Happy Home, maybe Happy Home. That would be the song. If they knew, I can hear New Edition covering that one. I think that has a New Edition energy to it. It's a serious song with a positive energy to it. It's a not so happy song, but it has a New Edition. Like New Edition would sing, some real serious songs, but they just sound so love. And they sound so happy. Whatever instrumentation they use, the melodies they use, it just had love in it. And it just had a smile in it, even if the song was, about something serious. Growing up can be a thing. Like it was just, yes, I can see that.
Yeah, I'm a diehard fan. And I tell people, I still don't think we've seen everything that they can do, like musically, and just they're very, very. I still think they're still underrated. I mean, yeah, the movie came out, they sold out, but I still don't think they've still gotten their just due for the reasons you just said, like just how the energy they bring to a song and just their live performance is still prestige. That's another conversation for another day. Actually,
they were. Johnny Gill was Bobby Brown was my favorite artist. In the 90s, he was my favorite artist. In late 80s, early 90s. I would fight. Everybody was I'll Be Sure fan. I was a Bobby Brown fan.
He's another one. I'm the same way. Bobby's another one that doesn't just to go off track a little bit. He's another one that doesn't get his just due for what he did with music and how he just totally changed the game. Like, yeah, and I always tell people, everything that Chris Brown, Trey Songz, Usher, everything they were doing, Bobby was doing that back in the 80s. Like his entire stage show is what they're doing now. It's like he was doing in the 80s. So
exactly.
Bobby.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bobby's. Bobby truly is I wouldn't say he's the king of R&B, but there was a time when he was the king of the stage. Like couldn't nobody see that man when it came to his his live game was just crazy. Like just.
I'm gonna give him that. What did Whitney used to call him, the king of hip hop R&B?
It's king of R&B. She always says I'm the king of stage. I'm king of R&B because. He would even say he's the worst singer in New Edition of the ones that actually sing. But like stage wise, he's going to give you 110% every single night.
He was amazing. Like I said, I was all in on Bobby, man. And he inspired the Ushers and all the like you said, the Chris Browns and all that stuff. That's his lineage. Those artistry. He was the first one that I can remember rapping on an R&B song. He was, the music that him, Teddy Riley, and Babyface LaFace, all of them put together is iconic to this day. And I would fight anybody. You tell me he's not, he wasn't the influencer and one of the main influencers of the R&B, what we call now as R&B.